Hey guys, Paul Argueta here. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Today I'm going to cover with you the top social media profile sites that you need to have in order to get your website to rank higher. So if you haven't figured it out by now, this is a holiday edition, Christmas themed edition training. This is my ugly Christmas sweater. I am a UCLA Bruin. I was there from 1994 to 1999, so I wanted to pay homage to my alma mater while still celebrating and honoring Christmas traditions, which is the ugly Christmas sweater. I'm really excited about the content that I'm going to be covering with you today, but before we get started, I want to do some housekeeping. So number one, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Okay, so we're working really hard to make sure that we bring you the best content to help you build your business in whatever profession it might be. Because at the end of the day, you're going to need to learn how to market your product or service, and that's precisely what I'm going to be covering today. So make sure you subscribe. Number two, the minute you subscribe, the alerts bell is going to pop up, okay, that little bell. Make sure that you click on that alert button so that way you can get alerts to anytime we upload new content or anytime we curate content. It isn't going to be uncommon for me to share other people's content on our channel as well, because it's stuff that I think it's useful. It's stuff that I personally implement into my own business. So before we get started, let me just share with you briefly my story. If you don't know it yet, by trade, I am a real estate broker. I've been licensed since I was 18 years old. I started my own real estate brokerage in 2010 with my partner. We got about 150 agents under our umbrella currently. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I really made a push for internet marketing and for digital marketing. And one of the reasons that I did that is because I saw so many other professions, so many other industries really implementing internet marketing and digital marketing in their advertising and their campaigns and succeeding at it. And I felt like we could really do the exact same thing. Not to mention the fact that you had websites, titans like Zillow and brokerages like Redfin that were doing the exact same thing, really just banking on the internet. And so I decided that we could do the exact same thing. So what I did was I went out and outsourced it. I hired outside firms to come work for our company, and we paid them a monthly retainer fee to do that. And I really didn't see the needle move. Now, mind you, one could easily argue that the firms that I hired weren't very, very good. And that's true. Because there are some really good firms out there. And I believe in specialization. In other words, I believe that you should let the pros do what they're good at. So the digital marketers, let them handle their business. The writers, the copyright writers, the bloggers, let them do what they're good at. There are now social media influencers and social media companies that will handle your social media profiles for you. Let them do that if they're good at it. The challenge is really finding the good ones, because there are a whole lot of bad ones that will take your money gladly and not really perform. So that's what happened to us. So for about 2 years, I bounced around from 2 to 3 different firms that we hired to represent us, to handle that stuff for us. And I just got tired. I got tired of not seeing any results, and I just realized that I'm doing a lot of shrugging. I don't really know why, but anyway. So what I did was I didn't stop my business, but I learned almost an entirely new profession. So I'd work as a real estate practitioner during the day. I'd go home, and from about 11 o'clock p.m. to about 1 or 2 in the morning, I would then study digital marketing. And then I would go and I would take seminars. I would go to conferences. I'd be on webinars. I'd be on conference calls. I really learned a whole new profession. And in the end, it ended up paying off, because for those of you who don't know, I built my company on cold calling, right? And I really was able to replace that production with the production that I get just based on my web presence, on my search engine optimization, and on the stuff that I'm going to teach you today. So today, we're going to be covering the top social media profile sites that you need in order to get your website to rank higher, whatever it might be. Now, mind you, I use these same techniques to help build my real estate brand. And if you don't know what my moniker happens to be, Talk to Paul. So my website is talktopaul.com, right? And so I use the exact same techniques that I'm going to be covering with you today, so that you can apply those techniques to your social media, to your website, and on what social media profiles you. All right, let's talk internet, right? Understand that all the internet really cares about is user experience, right? And its algorithms and your ranking is based on that user experience. So the longer the user is on your site, the more it signals to the internet gods and that your website is relevant to the content that user is searching for. So that may sound more complicated than it really needs to be. If you don't have valuable content, and if you're just looking to make a sham site or a shell site, then really you're not going to be able to rank. Okay, those days are long gone. The days where you thought you could stuff your website with keywords, and if you had, your keywords show up a bunch of times, that would signal to Google or to the other internet gods that your website was relevant. Those days are gone. Okay, but what is still relevant is the number of websites that link to your page. And social media profiles is an easy way for Google to recognize that you've got outside reputable sites that are now linking to your website, right? So the reason that you need to have these social media profile sites set up is because these profiles allow you to place your website in them, thereby giving your site more reputability, right? And again, it's all about the user experience. So if you have all these different social media sites that have credibility, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Google My Business, Apple Maps, Yelp, if you have Chamber of Commerce sites, right? In other words, in your area, if you were on a Chamber of Commerce site and on that Chamber of Commerce site is a link that goes back to your site, does that not make you look more reputable in the eyes of the consumer? Yes. Does that not make you look more reputable in the eyes of the internet? Yes. So the key here is to have as many social media profile sites set up so that allow you to put your website on them. Right now, understand again that just by having a domain name, just by having a website, right, and just throwing up a sham site, right, without any real content is not going to help you. At the end of the day, it's all about user experience. So even if you do have a sham site, and then the user does go to your site and they realize that it's nothing but a shell, and then they leave right away, that makes your bounce rate higher. In other words, they're leaving right away, they're bouncing from your site. The higher your bounce rate, right, the less likely you are to rank, because what that does is it sends signals to Google telling them that, hey, although this site does say it's about, XYZ widgets, people are going there and they're leaving immediately. So they're clearly not finding the content that they need, right? And so again, you really need to understand that your site has to have the content in order to keep the eyeballs there. And we'll talk about that in another training. I did do a full-blown SEO training. I did it live and then we taped it, and it's in our YouTube channel, and you're more than welcome to browse that video as well. It's about an hour long. This one's gonna be a little bit shorter because all I'm really focusing on is on the top social media sites that you do need profiles on, that in order to make yourself rank higher. Quick tip, as you're setting up these social media profile sites, I am going to recommend that you try to use the same username profile for all of the sites that you set up. So for instance, if I was doing this again, now instead of Paul Argueta on one site and then Talk to Paul on another site, I would have them all be Talk to Paul, and then I even spell it out, Talk to Paul, DOTCOM, talktopaul.com. That would be how I would set up all my profiles, so that way, again, think about it, in the eyes of the internet, as the spider bots are crawling the web, they're seeing that talktopaul.com is appearing on all these different profiles and on all these different domains. And even though the social media profile that I set up, even though that might be a no follow link, right, where I'm not necessarily getting credit to my website for that link being in the profile, even though I still 9 times out of 10 will get my own unique URL domain name by that social media profile site, where I can modify that to reflect the username that I want. So that domain still exists, right? Okay, and I'm not trying to confuse you, but just think of it this way. So I set up my social media profile site on my Facebook business page. And in that Facebook business page, I have a link on my profile that links out to my actual website, right? Now, what Facebook Business allows me to do is it allows me to name that business page in my URL. I can determine the URL that I'm going to use. So what I'm suggesting is that you use the same moniker in your URL for all of your social media profile sites. So my Facebook business page URL would be facebook.com/ it's actually business.facebook.com/ and then it would be Talk to Paul, DOTCOM, talktopaul.com. And I'm going to use that talktopaul.com moniker and all my other social media profile sites. After these profile sites have been set up, okay, it's very important that you then put them on your website. Okay, we've all seen the Facebook icons, the Instagram icons, the whatever icons you might want to put. So once these social media profile sites are up and you have them linking back to your site, you also need to make sure that you put their icons on your site. I typically put them on the footer. You can put them on the header of the site, which is the top or the bottom, wherever you want them to be. But just make sure that those icons do in fact link back to the social profile site that you've set up, okay? Because all that does, again, is it adds more credibility to what you're already doing, okay? Google My Business. If you don't know what Google My Business is, it's the Google business profile pages that pop up every time you do a search on Google Maps, all right? It's free. All right, doesn't cost you any money. And so you need to go to Google My Business. You need to set up your Google My Business profile page, all right? And I'm gonna give you a few tips. So I said it earlier, when you set up your profile page, you wanna make sure that you use the same moniker every single time. So in my case, because I am a real estate broker, it's going to be Talk to Paul, real estate agent, right? Or Talk to Paul, enter city, that real estate that I'm trying to rank for, okay? So you're gonna go there, you're gonna create your profile page. You're gonna enter your address, and then you're gonna tell Google whether or not it is a service location. See, the beauty about what Google My Business allows you to do is it allows you to create actual office, retail, or storefront locations where people can come in and out of your office or in and out of your location. Or they allow you to create service areas, right? And service areas are important because of professions like mine, right? I may work another area or another service area. I mean, and not only me, I mean, there's other professions that do the exact same thing, that take their business wherever they go. So you can create a service area of a radius or certain cities or certain zip codes. And you should pop up when people search for that particular business in that service area. So you have two options. You can either be a storefront, office front location where the customer can come to you directly, or you can have a service area, or believe it or not, you can actually have both. I mean, both, so you'd have all three. I am going to suggest that if you're working out of your home, if you're running your business out of your home, that you only create a service area so that your personal address does not show up. And there's an option there on the Google My Business setup page where you can click hide my address. And so what will happen is people will still find you on Google Maps when they're doing a search for a particular service, profession, product, right? But you won't have a physical address there. Now, if you do have an office, right, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna enter your office location, and then it will show up so that people can find you on Google My Business, all right? This is free, it doesn't cost you anything. Now, if you are the type of person that has your office in one location, but then you live in another city and you'd like to offer that city also as another service location, then you can have multiple locations on Google My Business, all right? What will happen though is they will allow you to verify the business the first time, probably by a phone call or a text. So you'll get a phone call or you'll get a text message confirming that your business really exists and that you're a real person. And again, Google really cares about user experience, right? And so they're not gonna allow you to create some shell company, some sham, okay? So they're gonna try to do the best they can to vet that you really exist and that your service is really there. Which is why you will need a website, because you're gonna have to put that website onto the Google My Business profile, all right? So the first one that you set up, you'll probably be able to verify it pretty quickly. But by the second or third one, what's gonna happen is they're not gonna allow you to verify it over the phone or by text. You're probably gonna have to get a postcard in the mail. And those postcards typically arrive 3 to 5 business days later, and in them are PIN numbers, and you'll have to go back to the profile setup page, enter that PIN number, and then your profile, your Google My Business profile will then be active. Okay, it's a very, very important tool, and I can't tell you the number of people that miss this step. They go through all this work to make a great website, to start a great business, and then they don't put themselves in Google My Business or in Google Maps, okay? And if you don't put yourself in Google My Business, there's no way that you're gonna show up in Google Maps. So make sure that that is the very first social media profile that you set up. Social media profile number 2. Facebook business page. Okay, so we all know that you need to have your own Facebook business page for your product or service, okay? Especially if you're gonna be doing any Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising. You can't advertise without having a Facebook business page. Now, Today's training is not on advertising on Facebook, although I did complete a training on Facebook advertising. The link should pop up shortly, and you can click on that link and then you can study that training. But you can't do any advertising unless you have a Facebook business profile page. So, number one, you need to create one. If you haven't created one, go ahead and make it. Now, in addition to making that Facebook business profile page, again, you're going to have to make sure that you update it with content, all right? Facebook will send you reminders on a regular basis, sometimes even a daily basis, that your users haven't heard from you and that they're gonna close the page down if you don't update it. So there is gonna have to be content. I'm going to suggest that every time you have a new blog entry, don't necessarily use the Facebook business page just to post pictures and videos and motivational quotes, all right? What you want to do is you want to post content that you've written on your site, and you want to put that content onto Facebook, linking it back to your site. So if I were to write a blog entry on my website about entrepreneurship, I would then copy and paste the hyperlink URL, right, to that blog entry, and I would place it on my Facebook business page, right? Now, there's a couple reasons that I want you to do that. The first reason is because you're going to get credit for posting content on your site to keep it active. But number two, the algorithms these days also measure something called social Q. So they also measure how many social sites are sharing that piece of content. So again, I know I talk about follow and no follow links. Yes, these are no follow links, but they are seeing how many times that article, that blog entry, that photo album, that video, how many times that stuff is actually being shared on social media. So the more times your stuff is shared, the better off and the higher that your website is going to rank. So the reason that I want you to share your content on your Facebook business page is to keep the page active, but to also make sure that your website is getting social cues, social links, right? So that the internet gods can recognize that it is being shared social. She shares by the shisha. You're going to have to forgive me for that one. Social media profile number 3, Yelp. So, Yelp isn't only for restaurants, right? If you look at it and you use the app, you will now notice that there's a ton of service-related industries as well. You've got doctors, attorneys, schools, you name it, right? You can create your business profile by going to biz.yelp.com and creating one. And it's a very similar process to Google My Business. And again, it doesn't cost you any money. So you're gonna create your profile, you're gonna put it in there. I will say that they are going to check to see if you have a website. If you don't have a website, it's not impossible to get your profile set up, but it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. Like Google My Business, the first profile that you set up on Yelp is going to be pretty easy, right? You're going to need a website. When you start to set up your second or third location, they're going to be a little bit more stringent about the process, and they're really going to want to verify that they are actual locations. You're not going to be able to get away with just using your home as a service location. So once your profile is set up, be prepared that Yelp salespeople are going to contact you. Okay? Well, they're professional salespeople. They're good at what they do, but I will tell you that they are going to really be aggressive. In other words, you're going to hear from them on a regular basis, and they're going to sell you on the benefits of advertising. Now, look, I'm not going to speak for or against their advertising model or their advertising platform. I'm just going to say that personally, I've been able to get business without having to advertise with them. Okay? Now, if you want to advertise with them, you're more than welcome to. But again, I will say that their salespeople are tenacious. I mean, they're trained really, really, really well. And if I could hire a few Yelp salespeople to come over here and work in our real estate division, I'd be really, really excited. Social media profile number 4, Apple Maps. So, if you haven't figured it out by now, Google Maps, which used to be included in the iPhone when Apple was delivering them, is not there. Now you have to manually install Google Maps onto your phone. So there are going to be some people that aren't going to do that, right? Just by nature, some people are lazy and so they don't want to do that. Or there are going to be some people who swear by Apple Maps. And so, they swear by every Apple product that is out there and they want to use it. So Apple's created their own version of Maps. And it's a great product. So if we know that Apple is creating another product to combat Google Maps, then, what are you going to do? You're going to adapt, right? You're going to create your own business profile for your business or your service on Apple Maps. That's, I mean, just common sense. So you do that, you sign in with your Apple ID. If you don't have an Apple ID or you're an Android user, you're gonna have to create one. You know, God forbid, you're committing a sin against the Android gods. So make sure that you go in there, you create your Apple ID. Look, I'm the type of person, I use Apple, I use Android, I use Google, I use all their products. I love them all, okay? So I'm an equal opportunity offender. I love Apple, I love Google, and so to me it's not a big deal. But you're gonna have to set up your own Apple ID. You're gonna go in there, you're gonna create your business profile. Same deal, right? They wanna see the website, they wanna make sure you're an actual storefront. Currently, and I could be wrong, and if you wanna correct me on this, make sure you post some comments below, but it has to be a storefront. In other words, if you try to use a residential address or an office space, if you try to use a residential address, it doesn't look like they're gonna permit it, at least as of 4 to 6 months ago when I was using it. And then they're gonna verify it by telephone. So you have to put your telephone number. I have tried to use my toll-free number establishing different service areas on Apple because I do have another office in another location, and they wouldn't allow me to use my toll-free number. They wanted to make sure that there was another number, a local number that they could call and verify it there. So it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. These are the things that you're gonna have to be prepared for, but ultimately you're going to have a profile set up on Apple Maps if there are going to be iPhone users, and you know there are, that are going to be using Apple Maps to search for their product or service. And if you wanna show up, then you better be on it, right? The fifth and final social media profile that you need is your Instagram profile. The gram. Yeah, everybody's using Instagram. You need to have a profile set up on Instagram, and you can convert it to business so that you can advertise. We'll talk about that later. I did do a training on Instagram advertising and on how to make your Instagram profile better. So I'm not gonna do that here. This is actually gonna be pretty short. I just popped the link up to that training. Click on the link, you can watch that link so that you can learn how to advertise and how to make your profile better. Again, you need to have an Instagram profile, and the beauty is they allow you to put your website on that profile. So use it, take advantage of it. You will need to build an audience on Instagram in order for it to be relevant, or you can just pay for advertising. But either way, Instagram is equally as important as all of the other social media profiles, and it just makes you look more reputable so that when people look you up or search you, they find you and they see what your website is. But Paul, what about Twitter? What about LinkedIn? What about Pinterest? What about SoundCloud? Look, there's a whole bunch. What about my podcast? There's a whole bunch of social media profiles that you should have established and set up so that you could promote your website. I just listed the top 5 that are going to probably have the biggest impact on your business right now. I'm not saying that you don't need any of the other ones. In fact, I'm going to say that you need as many as you can possibly get. I have heard estimates that there are between 60 to 80 to 100 different social media profiles that you can set up. I mean, there's WhatsApp, there's WeChat, there's all these different social media profiles that you can set up so that you can put your website on that will add more credibility to what you're doing. And if you've got the time, might want to outsource it or have a high school guy or gal come in and do it for you and set up all these profiles, because it can be very time consuming. I know this, but all I wanted to give you was the top 5 that you absolutely must have in order to have your website rank higher. Take advantage of them. Use them. Use them to share your website's content. Don't be so free-willing to give these social profiles or these social sites all of your content. Make sure that some of that content links back to your site so that you can get social cues, so that the spider bots find out that your content is being shared on other social media sites. But again, these are the top 5. Make sure that you register for as many as you possibly can. Don't go overboard with it, and don't pay for other social profile sites that try to charge you to set them up, right? It's not worth it, because the best ones are always free anyway. I hope you found the content valuable. More importantly, I want you to implement the stuff that I'm training you on, okay? It's very, very important. It's great to watch all these videos, but if you don't take action and actually start to set these profiles up, it's not gonna do you any good. And if you have the profile set up and you're not really using them to their full advantage, and you're not showcasing them or placing the icons and the links on your website, it's not gonna do you any good, okay? So you need to make sure that you have the profiles and you need to make sure that you use them. Now, are you going to see instant results? Probably not, okay? These social media profile sites are designed to do a few things. Number one, credibility. Right? Again, it's all about credibility and it's all about user experience. Someone that is creating a sham site just to try to go out there and to take advantage of the consumer is not going to go through all this work to create these profiles, right? Which is why it makes you look more reputable. This is why you have to do it. So you set up these social profiles, you put the links to your site on them, and then you put the icons on your site and you send your content onto those sites so that you can share them, right? That's the whole idea. This will take, months before you actually start to reap the rewards. Now, here's the deal though. You want to get good at getting a couple things. Number one, you want to make sure that you get good at getting reviews. So start asking consumers for reviews. If you have clients that you've worked with that are satisfied, that are happy, make sure that you ask them for reviews on a regular basis. And understand that a lot of times it's going to take more than one request. You can't just ask them for a review one time and expect that they're going to give you gleaming reviews, okay? You may have to ask twice, you may have to ask thrice, you may have to ask thrice, 4 times. You might have to ask them 4 or 5 times before they actually sit down and give you the review that you deserve for the work that you did. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't be so ashamed or too humble to go back and ask them for reviews if they haven't done it after like 2 or 3 requests, okay? There have been times where clients who love me, I had to ask them about 4 or 5 times to go out and give me a review on my service, okay? So ask multiple times. Get good at getting reviews on the Google My Business page, on the Yelp page, on the Facebook page, right? Make sure on the Apple Maps page, make sure that you get good at asking for reviews. Now, one thing that I do is that when I ask my clients for reviews of my service, I will tell them, listen, do me a favor, I need you to give me a review, and then I give them links to each of my profile page, and I tell them, you don't have to lie, you don't have to exaggerate, although if you want to say that I was the best thing since sliced bread, that's fantastic. I'd let them know that they can copy and paste the same review in all 3 portals, okay? So it's very important that when you're talking to the client that you say, look, just help me out, do me a huge favor. I worked really hard for you. If you could help me with this online review, I would be very, very thankful. Go ahead and copy paste the same one, but if you could do it on all 3, you'd be a lifesaver for me. And most of the time people are okay with doing it, right? As long as you give them the link so they don't have to go search it out, and as long as you tell them, look, just copy and paste, they'll be okay with it. So use these social profiles to build your reputability, to get reviews, right? And to put them on your site, all right? In other trainings, I do talk about how you have to have an active and a passive campaign while you're building your business. I'm not gonna do that here, but understand that this is part of the passive process as you're building your business. And eventually, it will match the active strategies that we talk about a little bit later on. For those of you that enjoyed this training, make sure that you subscribe. Okay, I talked about that earlier. Subscribe so that you can get all our content. Make sure that you click on the alerts button, okay, so that you can get alerts as to when new content is added or shared, and participate, right? Give me some comments, give me some dialogue. Let's start some conversations, right? If there's something here that confused you or something that you need help with or something that worked, I want to hear the success stories. I want to hear what is working for you so that we can all benefit each other, right? Pay it forward. Let's all help each other. We got enough haters, more helpers, right? So let's help each other out. Let's help build each other's businesses so that we can all succeed.